yes to the cognitive, more rational thinking parts of the brain.
What are some of the biggest paradigm shifts that you've seen happen as you and Richard have been going across the country and across the world for Go for No?
The whole philosophy of Go for No, which seems counterintuitive, like no one in sales wants to get a no. We've all been taught and trained to get a yes. That's what we want. But the whole idea is that you don't get more yeses by avoiding no's.
Compliance, she says, will never take you where commitment can go.
What does it mean right now for someone that has the survival brain, and what kind of feelings can they expect to go through?
Glad to see you guys are still, still doing your thing, keeping it nice and light, and also great value. It's always great to see people who are very positive at this time, and a lot of people aren't. So it's great to see this, guys. I'm real happy for you.
And so here's why it's so important to ask questions. Because if we think we know what they are thinking, okay, we are going to present our product or service in a certain way.
And I created the Sales Health Alliance to help empower salespeople to reach peak levels of sales performance, but also peak levels of well-being through better mental health.
Social distancing, sort of being in partial lockdowns, not being able to communicate and be in touch with people the way we normally do. It's really difficult because we're social creatures.
How do you keep your feelings from clouding your decision making? Great question, Ryan.
Oh, fantastic question.
Great question, Ryan. So here's the thing, right, Ryan? You have to look at business and personal, right? Don't mix the two.
Okay, I'll backtrack. We have 7 universal expressions. So we have happiness, we have sadness, we have fear, we have surprise, we have disgust and contempt. And these are the 7 expressions we all make.
How many people would go 2.5 years working towards their goal with not a single paycheck?
I failed. I lost my business. I lost my home. I was a multi-millionaire, Dan and Nick, in April 2012. April 2013, $400 in the bank. No credit cards, no way out, no credit, no nothing. I mean, it was all gone. And I now look at it as a growth pattern. If I had not gone through that pivotal time and through the pivotal moment being a custodian with someone spoiled milk and trash can on my bare skin, I would not be who I am today as a coach, a consultant, a speaker, because I wouldn't be able to connect with people on a real level.
Nick, Dan, I got to show you guys a little bit of love. I appreciate all the skilling up, all the things that you guys have taught me that I've implemented in my business, the guidance, the support, the trainings, everything has truly taken my business to the next level. Me as an entrepreneur, someone who's less than 1 year into my business, there are things that you just don't know, right? That you guys have decades worth of experience in growing businesses, netting high value deals. And so I just appreciate everything. How do I know it's working? How do I know the brains, the brain science, the sales psychology, the customer profiles, all that type of stuff? How do I know it's actually working? Because I netted 3 extra clients in the last 2 weeks. So there's actually an ROI. So I appreciate you guys so much. And man, I'm looking forward to a lot more great shows. Thanks.
So important. And some of you are probably thinking at this point, my sales isn't really going the way I need it to go, or the way when I've been selling, it's not working.
This is where we walk into a dark room and we turn on a flashlight for the first time. We see things we haven't seen in front of us. So Dan, one for me has to be planting the seed, right? I think the next one is EQ, not IQ, looking at routine. We've talked about this a little bit. Finding your rhythm. 3 things you can control and 1 you can't. Which one do you focus on? Work out what we can control, be comfortable with what we can control, and let go of what we can't control right now.
And I want to add something to this list too, is to take a break.
We get to really understand the context of what might be happening in their world right now.
You thought about what would be right for the client. You thought about what would make that easier, and you didn't do it from a point of view of what's going to fill your wallet. So again, Nafad, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Is there anyone else that wants to share as well? Because this is the time to do that right now.
And I'm going to challenge all of you to really, really look at your business and say, how can I make everything zero friction for the customer? So Tyler, you're on the exact route you need to be on in trying to create that zero friction for that customer in the middle. If you do everything, you're going to see huge leaps and bounds. Like
So one of the things I talk about a lot, guys, is be easy to do business with.
So yeah, so your first, see, you guys see what I'm talking about? Working from home. That's my dog. Can you all hear the dog? Right. So you gotta love a live show, right? You gotta love it. What Nick and I are gonna do is we're gonna actually walk you guys through the big 5 moves. Getting clarity on our customer profile for us as the big move. The tasks underneath it will identify all our avatars in every single phase. We're going to have to identify things like what motivates them, what demotivates them, what are their struggles, what are they going through, how do we have a follow-up sequence for them, how do we follow up with them, what kind of questions do we ask them, which way do we connect with them, what kind of articles can we send them, what kind of training videos can we send them to help them get from where they are and build that bridge to where they want to be.
That's a perfect segue into using feel, felt, found. Okay, guys. So one of the things that we talk about a lot, is, how can we use these old sales techniques that really work, the basics, right, the foundational stuff, and bring that into today's modern market.
We want to be pros in our field. That takes dedication. That takes more work.
Feel, felt, found is so powerful. When you're speaking to someone, you can say, I know how you're feeling. All right? You can say, I've felt the same way. You can say, look, I've found the same sort of problems. All it does is conveys the emotive value that you understand what the person's going through.
That one routine alone will change your business and life in so many ways.
Disc profile is really, really important. So with a D-type personality, it is so important that we understand we need to be brief. And the I personality is the complete opposite to the D. S's are heavily sympathetic. C is a really interesting one again. C is a cross between an accountant and a CFO. If you know what the people are that will buy your product, because that's why we're all in business or all in sales, if you know what they look like, you'll know what you need to say to them and you'll know what they sound like. If I was selling to a D-type personality, I'm going to read them very quickly. I'm going to look at their body language. I'm going to look at the way they look directly at the screen. And I'm going to look at the conversation and how the conversation flows. And I'm going to know straight away that D-type personality, I need to get down to what's going to work for them. And I need to give them choices so they can make a quick choice.
Do not let other people's false emergencies take you off of your routine.
And also when you're present, Dan, you can look at what you're doing and you can start to pivot and shift a lot easier.
Every time you set out to do a task, I'm going to challenge you to ask yourself, will this task work? Will it get me to where I want to go? Is it getting me closer to or further away from my goal?
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously you're going to change your approach and you're going to look at what you can do differently. I would be looking at doing some research as well as trying to work out, what does that ideal sort of person look like, and how would I be best to reach out to them?
Process, I had a 62% connection rate. Ryan, who had to jump off because he had a meeting, he was at a 50% connection rate. 50% of the people he contacted gave him an interview on Zoom, gave him a meeting on Zoom. 50% just because it was different.
We connect that way. And from a business talk, it goes to a personal talk. And down the road, it comes back to a business discussion.
100%. Listen, the reality of all business, it's not logo and logo. You do not work with any of your customers' logos. It is the people that are synergistic. The people, when they connect, that's when real business is done. I mean, think about that for a second. And sometimes that hits you.
Okay, let me run with this. I've got to come back to what I want to do, guys, which is doing business. Right? I keep on saying this. We all just need to keep doing business. So if we look at doing business, when I'm dealing with a direct D-type personality and I've picked it and I've read it straight away, I'm asking them things like, how are they going? How's their business? Are they still operational right now? What are they doing that's keeping their business moving forward? Because that's what they love.
Hey everyone, my name is Ryan Mohammed. I'm from Toronto, Ontario. I'm a sales professional in the transportation and logistics industry. I'm currently enrolled in the NRDD television show with Nick Redstone and Dan Deegan. It's must-see TV every Tuesday. I personally look forward to all the new episodes that we go through together. During these current times, it's hard for sales reps as myself to not get down of a lot of no's or what's essentially going on in the market. Doesn't matter which industry that you're in. And both Dan and Nick, they take the time every week to go through from the beginning. And that's what I appreciate. They didn't just expected everybody to be at a certain level. They basically guide us every single week onto how we can basically better ourselves during like the survival mode of what the customer is thinking about. There's clarity and goal setting that for myself, sometimes I get distracted when, let's say, I don't close a deal, or no one's picking up the phone, or just kind of just getting a whole bunch of blank answers, and just having that goal in my back of my mind and knowing that, okay, it gets better. And with these guys, I have a platform to know that I'm not alone. Like, there's other people going through these things. I love that we bring in the different panel guests every single week, from NFL players to a psychiatrist, just to talk to us about different out of the box solutions that I personally appreciate. I'm a huge fan, huge supporter. I recommend it to any sales professional looking to kind of take their game to the next level. As for me personally, I've seen that I put whatever they've kind of given to us into action right away, and I've been getting really good results from my end. So with that being said, keep doing up the great job. I love what you guys are doing, Dan and Nick, and thank you for everything that you guys have given to us as students here, and we're looking forward to it. All right, take care.
Right.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you today?
Not bad, not bad. Just looking at your reports here from last week, and your results and numbers really aren't up to par where you should be. What's going on?
Well, it is a pandemic out there, sir. I'm trying my best to reach people and do my research on people and make sure I got all my ducks in a row before I make the calls.
I just feel right now maybe you're floundering a little bit, or you're not organized correctly. Is there anything we can help you with?
I appreciate that you want to be in touch with me all the time. So no, I'm good.
Okay. Well, again, it's 2:00 right now. So again, what have you done so far today?
Well, I mean,
I'm gonna get this one now. Take a lot of time doing this. There we go. Now we're gonna make a butterfly. We do cursive writing. There we go. Look at that. Dan, you are an awesome design maker.
Check your home's first responder. Smoke and carbon monoxide.
Netflix.
You'll give a date. If it's older than 10 years.
Oh, here we come. Yeah! All right. Oh, I mean, it's 12 o'clock somewhere.
I've done a lot. I mean, I've made a lot of calls. I've made sure I've spoken to a lot of customers. I mean, my pipeline is getting so full. You're going to see results in no time. I promise you that. And
And here we go. We are officially live, and I've got a few things I've got to take off of the screen here. Welcome, everybody, to the third episode of the NRDD Business and Sales Coaching Show. Nick and I are super stoked to have you guys here today. A while back, we created a really cool video series called Stuck at B because we found that a lot of salespeople were they were stagnant, they were stalled, they were having so many issues getting through their sales cycle. So we created this absolutely amazing program for them. And today we're going to share with you some of the strategies and tactics that come with that program. Nick, I notice you're on. Say hi.
Yeah, hey Dan, and here's the best part about this. And look, guys, it's just awesome to be in episode 3 of the NRDD show live. It's such a great thing to be able to share this with you guys live. You know, it used to be a members exclusive only thing, and we decided to bring it to everyone live. So everyone that's joining us today, we've got this new template, we've got this new platform where you can actually now see the timer count down. You now have an invite come out to you specifically. So if you're joining us for the first time, throw something in the comments field to let us know you're there, and it's great to have you on board. As Dan was saying, one of the things that we realized is people were getting stuck at B. Now, what is stuck at B? Well, identifying stuck at B is where you're working through the sales process. You start at A, which is asking the right questions, and you're supposed to move through to C, which is closing the deal. But that's not what happens, guys. People get stuck at B. And the reasons people get stuck at B, we found there's 8 very specific reasons when Dan and I dealt with some of the top salespeople around the world, dealt with some of the top sales minds around the world. We've both been in podcasts now. We've both been interviewed by all sorts of people globally. We've had some of the top people on our season 1 last year, people like Bob Berg, people like Andrea Waltz, the authors of The Sales Cycle, Marcus Ogden, the authors of the Go Giver series, the author of the Go For No series. All those types of people have given us this understanding and a further sort of understanding of why people get stuck at B. So we're going to share with you guys today the 3 key elements out of 8 of them, 3 key elements as to why you get stuck at B. But Dan, before we do that, let's find a minion in time, mate. So Nick, you stop for a second, mate. What I'm trying to tell you is I'm you. You're me, I'm you. I'm you from the future. I'm you in the future. I'm what you look like later. Once COVID passes on, I'm what you look like later. Does that make sense? Anyway, look, if things get better for you, you look after your family, you bring in a ton of money, you get your Audi, which is awesome. Look, things take off. In fact, you become a 7-figure consultant, which is amazing. So look, just keep doing what you're doing. You get a bit skinny, all right, you'll get your muscle back, that's okay. And look, work on what you're doing, and just remember to keep looking after yourself and keep grinding hard, keep working hard. COVID does pass on.
Thank God for that then, Nick, because this dressing up as a minion doing kids' parties, not how saw our career going. Hey, one question. Do we get the Learjet like Grant Cadone has?
There we go. That was awesome. You know, that that part, Nick, where you start talking about the Learjet and Grant Cardone, that just killed me.
Well,
That was awesome. So what we're going to do right now, guys, we're going to dive right into it. We want to keep you guys for no longer than 30, 35 minutes. We understand your time is extremely valuable. So we're going to dive in with EQ over IQ with Mr. Nick Redstone.
Awesome. So very quickly, I think we should clear up. Dan, next time you wear the minion suit, mate, I think it suits you a bit better than it suits me, brother. Hey, so look, EQ versus IQ. You know, COVID hit. Some people pivoted very successfully, and some people are still using the same strategies that they were using before COVID. That real IQ strategy of coming in, having a conversation, talking about how your business has been doing this since 1956, how you've been doing that, what you can do for the customer, and how you're going to make this much of a difference to them. Very much IQ, laying out for them a systematic way that they will deal with your business. That's fine, but that will have you stuck at B. In this COVID environment, we need to be looking more at EQ, which is the emotional intelligence side of our brain and working with people and their emotional intelligence side, and starting to look at the kind of questions we should be asking them, starting to reframe up our conversations so that we can get to their mindset in a more effective way. Now, what I mean by this is so many people are struggling right now. New Zealand, my country, is locked down once again, and we're down to a 2.5 version, which means people can't trade the way they used to in business. So we need to be quite aware of that from the point of view of when we go out and have conversations with our customers and potential customers, that they're not even in their normal environments. They may not be in their office. They may still be working from home. We need to be aware of that. Questions like tell me more rather than feel, felt, found. Sales 101 taught us how to use feel, felt, found, right? I know how you're feeling. I've found the same thing. People have felt this or found this. That's fine, but people can't relate to that right now. You know, what we found is by using the term tell me more or share more with me, they share a whole lot more about their current circumstances. They share a whole lot more about where they're actually at and what's going on with them personally. One of the trickiest things, of course, in sales is to extract information from someone, you know, that's more personal. So we need to be aware that there are personality types, and those personality types like to be dealt with in a certain way. Now, what we do with regards to the NRDD Live Sales and Coaching Show is we like to use and work with the disc brain. Okay, so for those of you who are not aware of the disc brain, the D, the I, the S, and the C, these are 4 personality types that we all have that are relatable, and that you'll start to understand and start to gain and understand what your personality is like when you look at the disc pattern, and you'll start to see how you can communicate more effectively with people, or how you can understand their brain. Now, we call this in Sales 103 brain science. Starting to actually understand, if I speak to a certain person a certain way, I need to have a very specific conversation. So when I'm dealing with, say, for example, a D, the EQ side rather than the IQ side is I actually understand their personality is very prompt. I understand they're very brash in the way that they want things done. They want things done very quickly. They want to have very few options, but they want to be able to make a choice that they're dealing with the right person, and the right person's going to do a great job for them, okay? If I come in and talk about how great my service is and how I'm going to be able to do this and how I'm going to be able to do that and try and offer up all of these extra value pieces, what we're going to find is that's not going to work well with the D personality. The D personality wants to get down to the brass tacks of what it is you're going to do for them, how you're going to offer that service, and how it's going to work for them. But then if we look at the complete opposite, which is the S personality, the S is more about the total overarching picture, the bigger picture of what you're doing and what it's going to mean for their business, or what it's going to mean for their outcome of what they're trying to do when they're achieving their goal. So you have to be more sympathetic. You have to be more understanding to the fact that they want to have a better knowledge and understanding of what you're going to do for them, how your product's going to work, testimonials for people that have used your service, or some kind of case studies for proof that your service actually works or your service will deliver. So these types of things, guys, we refer to as EQ, not IQ, when we're working through the sales process. And this will move you through that stuck at B place, that place where you get to where your time is delayed, because your sales transaction's all in place, you've had the right conversations, and all of a sudden they're not making a decision to do something. Again, you need to know the personality you're dealing with to know, are you going to step them through the process, or are you going to walk them through the things they require for you to be able to step them through the process? All right. So we can talk about this quite a lot. One thing I want to do is say, Dan's actually going to throw in the comment field our Stuck at B series video series, which will give all 8 tips. All 8 tips are going to be in that video series. It's going to be in the comment field for free. So get in there today, go into the comments area, download it for free, and it'll be yours, and you can watch that video series and learn all those 8 tips. But we're going to share 3 of those today. So the first one I've shared with you right now is the EQ versus IQ. The next one that is most important is so many of you out there in sales land and so many of us out there in business world use follow-up. Follow-up is fine in that pre-COVID environment where something gets done, it gets done. If it gets delivered, it gets delivered. If it gets partially delivered, it gets partially delivered. DIFOT, you know, all those types of issues and all those types of things become relevant with that sort of follow-up process. But it is another area where people get stuck at B in the sales process. We interviewed 1,000 people globally, and we found out from them where they were getting stuck. And one thing they could recognize is it's when they go to follow people up that the sales don't move further any forward. don't move forward, any faster. What we realized through this process is they weren't using a system called next steps. Now, next steps is walking someone through what you're going to do for them next so they understand they're a part of a process. Think about when you were riding a bike. Think about when you learned to ride a bike. You got on the bike, you held the handlebars, you put your feet down, and you felt steady. As soon as you took your feet off the ground, it didn't make sense and you were going to topple over straight away. If you knew to start turning the cogs on the pedals straight away, you would have started moving forward straight away. The faster you do that, the more momentum you have and the more accurately you're going to stay in line and ride along. It's no different with next steps with regards to helping someone through that process. Let them know what it is you're going to do for them next. Let them know what team member that you're dealing with as a part of their team, or let them know what team members you intend to deal with. Who should be in the next meeting you're having? What should the next meeting you're having outline? What is the agenda for the next meeting that you're having? Who needs to be at the next meeting? What kind of information needs to be shared at the next meeting? This is all part of what we call next steps in the process. Now, to put this in perspective, I was personally coaching about 4 or 5 people prior to COVID that suddenly contacted me and said, Nick, I'm really concerned that I'm going to be axed from my job. And I talked about revenue generating appointments and how many they had and the FaceTime activity they were doing, and everything was fine. Everything was working fine. But the problem was these particular people were saying to me they weren't closing deals inside the same month. So they were concerned they weren't going to hit their monthly targets. First question I asked them is, what next steps do you have in place? What is the next thing that's going to happen on each of these opportunities? And my friends, that is the piece that you probably can start to relate to that is missing in a lot of the sales process, is what is the next steps? What are the next things that need to happen? What is the next bit of information that needs to be shared? And what I'm going to do is throw you over to Dan now, who I know has got a fantastic example of showing you guys this on a whiteboard setup to show you guys what next steps look like and what closing that gap in conversation of sending someone and sharing with someone the right message versus the wrong message for the right person or wrong person. Pass over to you, Dan.
Thanks, Nick. So, guys, when I just want to kind of overall give you the picture here. So Nick taught you about the EQ versus IQ, taught you about next steps. When you go to move through to the next step, right? Like the second you get a hold of a prospect on a cold call, from that second, you should always have your next steps scheduled, right? If you really want to move through your sales cycle with at lightning speed as fast as possible, at least get to third base and then start fulfilling the customer's why. It's important that these are scheduled. And I want to share with you a little strategy that we're looking at. So let's say, for example, this is you, all right? Now, you're here and your customer is up here. All right, that's a pretty crappy flag, but your customer's up here. This is what we call the gap. Now, when it comes to the gap and comes to understanding how do we navigate through this gap, it's all about delivering the right message to the right person. Let me ask you a question. Have any of you ever had a cold call where you were saying to yourself, man, I was pretty awesome on that cold call. Like, I really rocked it. And then all of a sudden it's like 0 dark 30. Your prospect has gone chasing Osama bin Laden somewhere and you can't find him for months. Right? That's because the message you were delivering sounded great to you, but if you're delivering a rock and roll message and your customer wants to hear jazz, it will never work. So when we're talking about delivering the right message to the right person, what we actually need to do is we need to build a bridge that goes over to the customer's volume, if you want to say, to the frequency they're speaking, to the frequency they want to hear. So the perfect and most simplistic way to give this real theory in your business is if you call the customer and you talk service, and the customer's sole focus is price. You're talking service, they want price. So you can sit there all day long and say, hey, you know the service we provide? Oh, it is top notch, man. I mean, I'm telling you, if it was any more top notch, I'd have to double my prices. And they're saying, double your prices? Really? Because all I care about is money. You save me money on what I'm doing. Like my main business is logistics and transportation. We call up, we say, listen, we have awesome service. We got satellite tracking. I mean, we could target this thing. We got geofencing. We got trailers tracking. So even if your freight goes missing, we could find it. And you're talking to a guy that's picking up raw plastic or scrap metal. And they're going, okay, great. What's the dollar amount? I don't care about service. So when we dive into a sales meeting, when we dive into a cold call, when we dive into a meeting, my main man, Nick Redstone, helped me with this one. Always set the intention for what you're looking for. If you don't understand the perspective of the customer, and if you're sitting over here with these grandiose ideas and your customer's over here wanting to talk something different, it never matches up. So now the big question you're probably asking yourself at this point is, okay, Dan, that's great. Yeah, I think everybody in sales, Nick, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think everybody's delivered the wrong message to the right person, delivered the right message to the wrong person. It's what we do in business sometimes. Obviously, as a pro, and if you're watching this right now, I'm going to take that you're a pro and you're looking to raise that bar in your sales and raise it fast, raise it quick, and really to come out in Q4 and just rock it. I mean, friggin' rock it. Then I'm going to assume you're the pro. You're the one that wants to learn. So let's talk a little bit about, for another minute or so, about how you can start delivering the right message to the right person. It starts primarily with a qualifying question. I've always used in my business, what's your primary and secondary reason for adding and switching a service provider? I've said that thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of times because the first answer is a two-pronged answer. And typically the first one that they say will be the one they focus on. You know, I often say, Nick, and I know you've probably heard the story a million times, probably don't want to hear it again, but I'm going to tell it again. You know, I'm a golfer. If you show me a putter that's going to knock 9 strokes off my game, I'm buying that sucker all day long. And if y'all are golfers out there that are watching this, throw something in the comments. Damn right. 'Cause 9 strokes is huge. I mean, that makes me go from to like superstar golfer. However, I've got a friend that has a $10,000 stereo system. Not a chance in hell would I spend 10 grand on a stereo system. Never. So you see, we will never speak the same language when it comes to golf, when it comes to what is spent on clubs, and when it comes to a stereo system. We never will. So why not even, like, if in business, let's transition this to time is money. Why would we spend time speaking with somebody that has a $10,000 stereo system if we would never spend that money on a stereo system? Now, flip the roles, okay? You call your customer and you say, hey, I really want to do business with you. This is great. Our company is awesome. And the customer's going, okay, price. Or you call the customer and you say, okay, the price is the price. Let's talk about price. You can't meet the price. Scoot, move on. Why continue? Nick, what are your thoughts on that, brother?
Yeah, and look, where we start to segue into this next part of the conversation, Dan, is it comes down to the right client fit. Comes down to the right client fit. Sorry, guys, with the sun coming through the window here. We're normally starting to, it's still dark at this time, unfortunately, so if my face is a bit glary, that's no problem. Right client fit comes down to who do you want to be doing business with? A lot of people don't actually understand. Go find the client that's best for your business. So if you're in a niche market, you're looking for the right kind of client that's going to suit your niche market product or your niche market service. So you may charge a slightly more premium price because you're in a niche market. But if you have a commoditized product or service that you provide, you're probably accepting you're going to be in a very competitive market, and you're going to have to deliver on making sure you deliver on next steps, on great service to stand apart. So making sure you know what your client wants and making sure you understand what your client will get out of your service and your product is absolutely key. Otherwise, you will get stuck at B. You'll make a real noose for your neck because they don't want what you want, because what you want from them is something completely different to what they want to achieve. Exactly the same thing Dan was saying. Understanding the gap and closing the gap. How do you start to identify what your client fit looks like? Well, you start to ask yourself one or two of these questions. Who would use my product or service? And this isn't so much for people in business that have been there in business for years and years, large companies. There's another part for you coming up. But who would use your service or your product? Why would they use your service or your product? And what value would they get out of your service or your product? You have to think about that right from the very start. So if you're a big company, you got to keep providing a great service. The second you stop providing a great service, guess what happens? Straight away, you're seen as a competitive product in the market because you can't provide on the service that you said you would. Your product's not delivering on the areas it needs to, and all of a sudden it's going to get more competitive for you because you're not providing what the client wants. The client fit isn't there. The client wants something that's going to work. You're a big business, but you're not providing them the value they need. If you're a small business, you maybe don't have your product sorted out. You maybe don't have your content and your details around your product sorted out. And you're going in and talking to people and trying to charge them a high-end price without having the product sorted out. Your client won't accept it because they're not that type of client. They're the kind of people that want a niche product that's going to work for them. They may be willing to pay a little bit more for it, but the product has to be sourceable, has to be delivered in a certain time frame because they want that niche product, right? That's what they do. You're in that niche market. You're providing that niche product. You've got to have that right client fit. How do they talk to you? How do they respond to you? What kind of messages do they share with you about your service and how you're achieving their goals? All these things really important when you're looking at that client fit and trying to decide what kind of client is a great fit for your business. Lastly, value. What value are you going to bring to their business? The right client will know straight away that you are an asset to their business, you bring value to their business, and dealing with you is a pleasure. The wrong client will cause you headaches, and you're going to have massive resources thrown at trying to sort them out and deal with their problems, or you're going to be dealing with them daily if you're a small business, entrepreneur, solo trader, that type of thing, because the client is not the right fit for your business. Now, you can go out and you can find plenty of the wrong people, and it makes you look busy and it makes you look like you've got a great client setup. But you still have to have revenue coming through. You still have to have that ability to be able to bring the invoicing through every month to be able to be successful in your business. Having the right client fit is absolutely essential. Have you thought about when you're putting your pricing together, how long it would take someone to source going and finding your product or your service? Did you just go and throw your pricing together based on, well, this is what it cost us, so your COGS, this is what we want to make as a margin, and this is what we're happy saying is our pricing in the market? But a lot of people don't take into account how long would it take for a person to go and find your service, to actually understand how they source that product or that service? How long would it take? Because that downtime is actually money to you. It's actually downtime to them, and it's huge savings for them as well if they can source that product through you and source it very quickly. If they can source it very quickly themselves and you set yourself up in a product line or a service line that they can sort out for themselves very quickly, you'll find you're going to be stuck at B once again, because the product you're bringing in or the service that you're providing, they can pretty much do for themselves. So it is so important when you're working out your client fit, work out what value you bring for them, work out what money they're happy to pay you and how that's going to be an agreed sort of amount that they're going to pay you based on the fact that you're a niche market or based on the fact that you're a commoditized product or service. Understanding those things is really, really key. And that leads us into where we get into taking the time to sit down with the client and work out what is really important to them to understand how you're going to provide that service for them. What are you going to do, like Dan was saying before, with an intent to deliver on the product or the service that you're going to provide? You see, I've seen so many businesses out there, guys, and work with so many businesses, large and small, million-dollar companies and billion-dollar companies, that don't provide on the service that they deliver. They simply do not provide on the service that they deliver. I've seen banks do it. I've seen large construction companies do it. They promise that something is going to work, the solution is going to work, but it doesn't always work. And that's because there's areas that they haven't allowed for, looking at what the client wanted and looking at what the client fit was, making sure that they knew every element, every aspect, every factor of what was required to deliver that service and deliver it well. We've all seen projects go over time. We've all seen projects go over budget. And often that's because the client and the person, you or your team sitting down with your client, didn't find out all the key details to understand what it was going to deliver. In fact, I had a phone call a couple of weeks ago. One of the people in coaching rang me and said, we lost the deal. Can't believe we lost it. We're working on it. We're a front runner. We lost it. I asked the question, where was the point of difference between what the client wanted and what you were delivering? And she said to me, yes, there was. There was a massive coverage issue. We couldn't deliver on the coverage. That should have been the first thing we sat down with our client, had a conversation about, and worked out their issue. Go back to the gap Dan was talking about, was based on coverage and where the coverage needed to be. And unfortunately, this business didn't do that right from the start, didn't assess that right client fit, so they didn't deliver on it. Hence, they didn't win the business. Happens all the time. I'm sure people can relate to this out there.
You know,
Over
Nick,
you, Dan?
I think everybody's faced that situation at some time in their sales career. You know, regardless of tenure, we sometimes lapse, right? So understand, everybody, that a stuck at B really has nothing to do with your tenure. It has nothing to do with you being a professional. It just means we've fallen into a rut, right? And we just got to dig ourselves out of it. We got to climb out of it and move forward. You know, Einstein was once asked, if you had an hour to chop a tree down, what would you do? And he said, I'd sharpen my axe for 55 minutes. And that quote alone is really the heart and soul of what we're talking about in this Stuck at B. If you really pay attention to what Nick said, how he laid out the disc brain, if you understand your prospect's mental side, and you understand that really as a pro, you're not in it for a sale. You're in it for client goal attainment. Your job as a professional salesperson is to walk into a client's office and help them achieve their goals, their mandates, help them meet their KPIs, right? When Nick said value, right? The trick when it comes to value is really brainstorming, right? Taking that 55 minutes to sharpen the axe and say, what value do I really provide? Like, am I setting myself apart, or am I taking myself outside the crowd and creating an experience for the customer? And this is in every single level of sales. Doesn't matter what you're selling. If you're selling widgets, how does your widget truly bring value to the end user? And that will help your customer achieve their goals. You know, I've never had a customer say to me, no, I have no desire in you helping me achieve my goals. You know, I want to show you something here in the back onto this sheet where we have, you know, you're thinking about flowers and your customer's thinking about stars. A couple of things to really, if you can, I would suggest you take some time and brainstorm today, which is, what value do you bring? Okay. How does that value translate into client goals? And client goals, meaning the attainment of their goals, right? Because as the great Zig Ziglar always said, you help enough people get what they want, you'll always get what you want. And I think in today's day and age, especially because, I mean, listen, let's face it. I don't think there's a single company on the planet that hasn't been affected by COVID, right? The reality, I'm not trying to use COVID as a scare tactic, but in Q4, companies are going to be looking for more, to do more, to be more, and to achieve more from their people. And how do we go about being more, doing more, and achieving more, right? We really understand what our client goals are. And can you add value to get there? Can you help them do something? Help them, even if it's as simple as your client's goal is to take back some time in his day because he's being overworked, right? Okay, well, Mr. Customer, is there any way I could do a report for you if I send you some information on A, B, C, and D that we handle? Would that take time away from you? And for all you salespeople, if that's the case, this is also a great way to get more business, because the more business you bring on, the more time you take away from them if you're willing to do a report, or if you're willing to share data that's going to help them create a report in less time, right? This is all value stacking on top of each other to help you get further down the line. I've said for the last decade, I would so much rather take an extra 30 days to onboard a customer. I'm not even going to say win, onboard a customer. That's for the long term. Because how many times have you tried to get a customer right away? you got them, and then 3 months later, it's like you took 2 steps back because you've lost the customer. Then not only have you lost the customer, that customer's taken up so much of your time that your pipeline's dried up. Now you're sitting there with a brittle pipeline about to fall apart, and you got no business. How many people does that ring a bell for? Right? So this is where bridging this gap, qualifying the customer right away. Is this going to be something long term? You know, we've shared a lot today, and we don't really want to, you know, we promised 35 minutes. We're just hitting that mark. But one thing I can say before I close out here, and I'll give it back to Nick, to you to close out, Nick, you know, one thing that I really truly want to say is a lot of the times when we sell outside of our client profile, it creates more work, more headaches, and in the long run, isn't profitable. And I'm closing out with that, Nick. I'll pass it over to you for a second, and we'll roll it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think, as you said, Dan, we've covered off enough stuff without sort of spraying you guys with the information fire hose. So, you know, those 3 things we talked about, they are 3 out of 8, and I'm sure you already understand, you know, we've glossed over those in very quick time frame. The video series is going to be available in the replay link that goes out when we send this out to LinkedIn and other platforms. It's also going to be available in the comments field. I urge you to click on that video series because the video series is a short 12-minute clip of each of these key areas, and it will help you to understand why you're getting stuck at B. And one of the things I want to leave you guys thinking with is this. Business is only going to get more interesting as we start to see more things taking place in the current environment we're in, right? So why don't we sharpen our axes now? Why don't we make sure that we can intend to deliver like we've never delivered before? Why don't we make sure that we've got all of our ducks in a line to make sure that we can deliver the best service to our customers who are going to be hurting just as much as we are, to be able to make it easy for them and easy for us to do business.